Hey everyone, Grayson here. Wanted to tell you a story about how I became debt free and then ended up becoming a financial coach. I've talked a little bit about this in some of the posts I've made in the past, but this is going to be like really just kind of a deep dive to learn more about my past, how I got to be where I am now. The truth is, I wasn't always great with money. I graduated from the Coast Guard Academy in 2005 and got stationed in Kodiak, Alaska. Now, this is an island in the middle of the Gulf of Alaska where bears outnumber people 4 to 1. That was all the joke. That was always the joke. So it's a pretty remote place. For the first time in my life, I was making real adult money. I basked in it. I still joke with my wife that I think I bought every single movie that came out on DVD between 2005 and 2007. And I was making this money and I spent it recklessly without a thought for the future. But not entirely true. I did put something like 2% of my paycheck into retirement savings at the time, but I was much more interested in how could I use that money to entertain myself rather than setting myself up for any type of long-term success. I would go out on the weekend and buy drinks for the bar, and it's a small island, so that wasn't terrible, but it's still money that I shouldn't have been spending. One time, I paid more than $300 to frame a $10 poster, and it seemed like every other day I had a new package that arrived on the doorstep with some new toy that I had ordered. The money I actually needed to live on was less than half of what I was actually making, but I was still racking up credit card debt at a pretty alarming rate. And that's not even mentioning the fact that, I was working on a boat at the time and I was splitting my time about 50-50 between living on the island and floating in the middle of the Bering Sea somewhere. It was pretty crazy. And after spending 4 years at a military school at the Coast Guard Academy, where I didn't need money day to day because a lot of all of our needs were provided for us, all of a sudden making this comparatively huge paycheck every month, I definitely wasn't setting myself up for success at all. Let's fast forward a couple of years. Um, I met my wife Tamar in San Diego back in 2008. So the Coast Guard had moved me down there after being stationed in Alaska, and she was there doing her pharmacy residency at Balboa Naval Hospital, or Naval Medical Center, Balboa. And we actually met 2 weeks before I went to Iraq, which was pretty great timing, right? But we had a pretty immediate connection. It was pretty strong. I knew she was special. I knew there was something special about her, and that bond really strengthened while I was deployed to Iraq because we were communicating pretty much every day via email and the occasional phone call that I would get. We were pretty much in constant contact to the point that when I got back from Iraq, I was pretty convinced that she was the one. I knew that I wanted to marry her one day. I wanted to be able to provide for her and protect her. And I had this overwhelming desire to make her happy. So on that side, I knew all these things. But over here, I had this nagging thing in my head. I knew that my debt, my poor money habits, were holding me back from being able to do that. I knew I had to do something to get rid of this debt so that I could secure our futures together. To be honest with you, I was ashamed of my debt. At this point in time, I had something like $30,000 in debt between credit cards, a car loan, personal loans. Now, Tamar actually had more debt than me, but hers were student loans and a car loan. So I could look at her debt and see exactly what she had exchanged for it. She was a pharmacist, she had a reliable car. Me, on the other hand, I might not have had as much debt as her, but I had hardly anything at all to show for it. I couldn't explain where all my debt came from or how I benefited from spending that money that I didn't even have. It was embarrassing. I had met the woman that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. And internally, I was terrified that she was going to learn the truth of my terrible money habits and never want to talk to me again. So I knew I had to get better. And I didn't know where to start. So, it's 2008. I fired up the old Google box and searched for, how do you make a budget? How do you pay off debt? And honestly, it was information overload. Like, there was so much out there that I didn't even know where to get started. I felt like giving up. Um, I struggled through it. I made a couple of starter budgets. I've actually got them all. I can pull up a budget going back to July of 2008, or yeah, 2008 right now. Um, but I wasn't making any progress. I as much as I wanted to be able to budget properly and to pay off my debt, I just wasn't getting any traction. This went on for a little while, and then a little while later, Tamar and I were talking about money, and I just told her how overwhelmed I felt. And I remember, you know, coming to the realization together that we needed to have accountability. We needed to hold each other accountable on this financial journey. Um, and honestly, that accountability piece is what had been missing. Things got a little bit better after that. They got a little bit easier, but it still wasn't smooth sailing. So there were a lot of stops and starts, a lot of stumbles along the way. We'd have a bad month spending money, spending way more money than we had planned, and we'd lose momentum. Sometimes the desire would drop off, but we stuck with it. We were able to hold each other accountable and stay on the path, and we eventually got to where we wanted to be. In June of 2013, we made the last payment on the last of Tamar's student loans, and we were married at this point. And that last payment, paying off that last student loan, made us officially debt free. I can't adequately describe that feeling. It was like a weight being lifted off of our shoulders. I honestly felt like a real adult for the first time in my life. And I was 31 years old at this point, married. I had a successful career in the Coast Guard, but it was just so freeing knowing that we didn't have to send any more of our hard-earned money to a bank. We get to take that money and pay ourselves now and build wealth. It was incredible. I remember to celebrate, we ordered debt-free cookies. Cheryl's Cookies. It's a company that we always get cookies from, and the cookies are good by themselves, but these cookies were the best that I have ever tasted in my life. They're so good. Funny part about that is we didn't even actually get to eat all of them because they ended up being stolen by a house guest. Not stolen, but she ate them without realizing what they were. But that's a funny story for another day. So that's our debt-free journey. It wasn't easy, and there were a lot of hiccups along the way, but we kept at it, and we eventually got to where we wanted to be. It was awesome. So let's fast forward a few more years. So now it's early 2018. I got out of the Coast Guard a year ago, and I'm working in corporate America now. I didn't love it, but I wouldn't say I hated it exactly either. What it was is, honestly, I kind of felt like after I took off the uniform, I was missing a sense of purpose in my life. I remember later that year finding an article about what financial coaching was. So I'd never heard the term financial coach before, but reading that article was eye-opening. Everything I read clicked. It just made sense to me. I got to the end of the article, and I remember I was sitting in the dining room, and Tamar was in the living room. And I ran in and told her, "I know what I want to be when I grow up. I figured it all out." And okay, Tamar knows me pretty well, and I do have a tendency to, kind of get excited about things and not quite see them through. Meaning, I start a lot of projects, I don't necessarily finish a lot of projects. So she sees me get all excited and come in and talking about all this. So of course she's just like, yeah, great dear, whatever. But I knew this was different. The corporate job I had was fine. It was providing for our family, providing us a good lifestyle. But I knew deep down that being a financial coach was what I was supposed to be doing with my life. In January 2019, I started coaching my first clients. Now, these people were friends or friends of friends, and they were essentially letting me coach them as a favor. So I was coaching for free. It was clunky. The process I was using to coach, quite frankly, was terrible. But after each and every meeting, I felt energized. I was excited. I was ready to do more. A couple of months into it, Tamar made the observation that, I would come home from a full day of working in the office, and I'd be drained. I'd be exhausted. I'd be short of patience with the kids. But then that same evening, I'd have a coaching session that would last until 10 p.m. And then afterwards, I'd be just bouncing off the walls, excited. It was true. It was yet another indicator that this coaching thing was what I was supposed to be doing. The joy that I was feeling came from seeing the people that I worked with transform their lives. Seeing them go from frustration and worry to confidence and swagger, helping them see what was possible in their lives, and then helping them come up with a plan to achieve it, and then walking that plan with them as that accountability partner and guide. You know, it made me wish that I had known what financial coaching was a decade ago, because it would have eased so much of the money struggles and the frustration that we had early on, and we would have gotten to where we wanted to be, being debt free and building wealth so much quicker, if only we had known that that existed. So now it's 2020. Earlier this year, back in March, I put in my notice, and then in April, I left my corporate job to be a coach full time. you know, that was right at the beginning of this global pandemic. It was a scary time. It's a scary time in general, just to walk away from a well-paying job that was secure and embark on this journey of entrepreneurship, to concentrate on my coaching full time. So it was scary. It was also exciting. And I've honestly loved every minute of it since. So that's the story of how we became debt free, and then how I became a financial coach. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Love to hear them. And be on the lookout. We're going to be doing more of these live videos coming up in the future. So have a great day. Talk to you later.